Today we're going to look at the different parts of the U.S. Constitution. Now, the Constitution is the document that our Founding Fathers created to help structure the government for our country. The Constitution is split up into different articles, kind of like chapters in a book. And Article 1 talks about the legislative branch of our government. Now, yesterday we talked about limited versus unlimited government. Well, when in limited government like ours, we have our structures that way no branch of government is more powerful than the others. Each branch has its own set of laws, and the first branch we'll talk about with Article 1 is the legislative branch. Now, this branch makes laws, and this includes two groups, the Senate, which equals 2 senators from each state, and the House of Representatives. Now, for the House of Representatives, the number of representatives is different based on your state's population. So states like Texas have more representatives than states like Rhode Island. And currently there are 435 members of the House, and together these two groups of people make up what we call Congress. What they do in the legislative branch is that they create laws, and the laws are sent to the President for his or her approval. Article 2 talks about the executive branch, and this branch is responsible for enforcing the laws. What that means, like I mentioned earlier, is that when a law is presented to the President from Congress, the President has the option to sign it and make it an official law that'll go into effect, or if the President doesn't like it, he or she can use what is called a veto, and that denies the law from becoming an actual law. The people in the executive branch include, of course, the President, the Vice President, and also the cabinet members underneath the President himself. Article 3 talks about the third branch of government, which is the Judicial Branch, and this group reviews the laws. The Judicial Branch is made up of the Supreme Court, which currently has 9 different justices. They are made up of an odd number, such as 9, so that way, anytime they have to vote on whether or not a law is what we call constitutional or not, there's no way it can end in a tie. It'll have to be one side or the other. But they review many laws, so even if a law does get passed by the President, sometimes the laws can come into question, and the Supreme Court takes a look at them to see if whether or not they should stay, or maybe if they should be overturned or gotten rid of. They also see major court cases. So if a court case gains national attention and has to do with some sort of ruling in the Constitution, the Supreme Court will take it over and determine a verdict. Now, at the end of our Constitution, we have what is called the Bill of Rights. And these are the first 10 amendments, or changes, that were made to the Constitution. When the Constitution was first drafted, our Founding Fathers realized that we didn't have any specific things in there about the rights of our citizens. So the first 10 changes they made guaranteed rights to the people. The First Amendment is the one that's the most popular, and that's the freedom of speech. You have the right to say what you want in our country. Now, sometimes there can be consequences for the things you say, but you are allowed to voice your opinions. Under the First Amendment, you also get to choose whatever religion you like to follow, if you want to follow one at all. Right of the press means that the newspapers can publish different stories. You have the right to assemble as a group, and you have the right to petition. The Second Amendment deals with the right to keep and bear arms, so you have the right to own a firearm. Now, there are certain restrictions on that, but you do have that right as a citizen. The Third Amendment is kind of an old one because back during the colony times, the American colonists were forced to let British soldiers sleep in their homes. Now, obviously, we don't do that today, but that change was made in there to protect them from against that back in the 1700s. The Fourth Amendment, that bans unreasonable search and seizures, so if the police ever want to search your home or your vehicle, they have to have a probable cause or a warrant to do so. Under the Fifth Amendment, mainly you can't be tried twice for the same crime, so if you're found innocent of something, you can't go back to court for the same thing. Sixth Amendment, you have the right to a swift and fair trial. Seventh Amendment, you get a trial by jury, so in some cases, a jury will decide your fate instead of just one person. The Eighth Amendment protects citizens against cruel and unusual punishment, for the Ninth Amendment, it basically says that anything that's not really guaranteed in the Constitution, you still have a right to. Like, obviously you have the right to breathe air. It's a silly one, but that's the best thing I can think of. And the 10th Amendment states that any powers that are not given to the national government are reserved to the states to create. So the states have their chances to make their own laws as well. So that's it. That is a brief overview of the U.S. Constitution. We'll be looking at this document a few more times throughout the year and comparing it to documents of other countries.